The pine woods behind the old reservoir always called to her. 11-year-old Ava Morgan stood at the edge of the gravel road, striped morning sunlight flickering across her brown skin as she tied the last knot on her backpack strap. Beside her, her 5-year-old German Shepherd Ranger paced in slow arcs, sniffing the breeze like a professional scout. "All right, big guy," Ava said, rubbing behind his ear. "We're going deeper today." Ranger wagged his tail once, just once, which meant approval. He wasn't a hyper dog. He was disciplined, focused, and nearly as cautious as Ava herself. Her parents always said Ranger had an old soul. Ava thought he just paid attention better than most humans. She looked down at the small, handheld camera clipped to her backpack strap. Her YouTube channel, Ava Explores, was still tiny, but she loved filming her hikes. Not for fame, for the memories. Adventures always look different when you rewatch them. "Okay," she told the camera, tapping its button. "Today we're taking the Pineback Trail, or what's left of it. I heard there used to be cabins out here in the 40s. Maybe we'll find something cool." Ranger snorted. "Fine," she laughed. "You'll find something cool. I'll just follow." They crossed into the tree line, pine needles cushioning their steps. The air smelled sharp, cold, and a little wild. Birds murmured somewhere overhead. A squirrel darted across their path. Ava felt it immediately. Today the woods had a different energy. Not bad, not dangerous, just purposeful, like the forest was awake and paying attention. They walked for nearly an hour, following the faint remains of the Pineback Trail, broken wooden markers, occasional exposed stones from an old footpath. Ava had traced this route several times before, but this time something was different. Ranger stopped. His entire body stiffened, ears up, muscles tight. Ava froze. He never reacted like that unless something was really off. "What is it?" she whispered. Ranger didn't bark. He simply turned his head sharply to the left toward a cluster of tall, tightly packed pines. Ava followed his gaze. There, half hidden behind the trees, was a trail she had never seen. It looked unnatural, too smooth, too straight, too deliberate. Pine needles formed a tidy carpet that led downhill like something had cleared the brush recently. Ava stepped closer. "This wasn't here before," she murmured. Ranger gave a low chuff as if agreeing. Ava bit her lip. "Okay, let's check it out. But if anything feels sketchy, we head back." Ranger moved first, taking the lead. His movements were alert but not fearful. That was enough reassurance for Ava. The new trail curved deeper into the woods, growing narrower, then wider again. After 6 or 7 minutes, Ava stopped short. Her breath caught. Through the trees, silent, gray, too large to miss, stood a 2-story abandoned house. "What?" She breathed. "How?" This house was nothing like the old logging cabins she'd seen on maps. It was bigger, more modern, probably built in the 80s or 90s, but its paint had peeled down to weathered boards. The porch sagged. Several windows stood open like dark, hollow eyes. "Ranger," she whispered, "why is this here? Why is this not on any map?" He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He simply stared at the house, tail low but not tucked, as if he sensed something serious but not life-threatening. Ava turned on her camera. Okay, everyone, this is crazy. We just found a full-size house out here off any map trails. I have no idea why it's abandoned. I have no idea who lived here, but we're going to take a quick look." Her heart thudded, but curiosity pushed her forward. As they approached, Ava noticed details. A fallen bicycle rusting in the weeds near the porch, a child's plastic cup lying on its side, a broken porch swing hanging by a single chain. This house wasn't just abandoned, it had been left. Recently? Hard to tell, but something in Ava's gut told her it hadn't been 40 years, maybe not even 10. She set her hand on the wooden railing. It creaked. Ranger stepped onto the porch with careful, soft paws. Ava hesitated. "Only a peek," she whispered. She pushed the front door. It groaned inward, a long, miserable sound. Dust swirled inside the entryway. Light cut through broken blinds, forming slanted bars across the floor. The air smelled of damp wood and something metallic. Old tools? Rust? Ava swallowed. "Hello," she called. "Anyone here?" Only her echo answered. She and Ranger stepped inside. The living room sprawled open, overturned couch, cold fireplace, scattered papers. But what caught Ava's attention were the pictures on the wall. Family photos, American family, happy, smiling, a tall black woman with warm eyes, a bearded man with carpenter rough hands, a girl maybe 6, a little younger than Ava clutching a stuffed rabbit, and a boy around 13 with a baseball cap turned backward. Ava stepped closer, her pulse picking up. Ranger sniffed one of the pictures, then the floor, then the doorway leading deeper inside. "You smell something?" Ava whispered. He didn't growl. That meant nobody dangerous was here now, but someone had been. Within the year, maybe. Ava's gaze drifted to a photo of the boy. On the back wall, he stood near a wooden signpost that read, "Backridge Trail, Private Access." Ava frowned. Backridge Trail wasn't on any map she knew. She felt excitement rising. This discovery was huge for her channel, but something else tugged at her chest. A heaviness. This house wasn't abandoned like some old relic. It felt interrupted. Like a life paused mid-moment and never unpaused again. A small hallway branched off the living room. Ranger walked ahead, nose sweeping the dusty floorboards. At the far end stood a closed door. Ranger stopped. He stared at it. One short, uncertain whine escaped him. Ava moved closer, slowly. "Ranger, what is it?" He didn't move. She reached out and touched the doorknob. Cold. Too cold. Her thumb brushed the metal, when suddenly she noticed something scratched into it. Tiny etchings. Letters carved unevenly by someone in a hurry. LM. Ava's breath hitched. Initials. Whose? Behind her, a faint sound echoed upstairs. A soft thump. Maybe a loose shutter. Maybe a bird. Maybe nothing. But Ava had Ranger with her. If there had been a person in this house, he would have gone rigid, barking, warning. Instead, he only looked anxious. Like the house itself worried him. Ava took a step back from the door. "Okay," she whispered. "We're not opening that yet. We'll check downstairs first." Ranger exhaled sharply, almost relieved. They moved into the kitchen. Dishes on the counter, half-empty cereal box, a calendar pinned to the wall, June 8 years ago, with 3 days circled in red. A note scribbled in the corner. "Trip preparations. Don't forget the spare keys." Ava's eyes narrowed. Spare keys? But for what? Through the doorway, she saw a narrow laundry room. Something on the floor glinted. A key. A single metal key, heavy, old-fashioned, lying right in the dust as if someone had placed it there on purpose. Ava crouched and picked it up. Engraved on the handle, LM, the same initials as the doorknob. Her stomach flipped. Someone. Maybe the mother? Someone named Lena Miller, Lauren Morgan, Lucy Myers. Left this key. But why leave it outside the laundry room and carve the same initials on a locked door? Ava. She froze. No one had spoken. It wasn't a voice. It was Ranger. He stood rigid, facing the front door. Someone was coming. Leaves crunched outside. A slow, deliberate step. Ranger growled low in his throat. Ava's pulse skyrocketed. Someone knew this house wasn't empty. Someone was coming in. Ava held her breath as the footsteps outside the porch slowed. Whoever was out there wasn't rushing, wasn't hesitant. They walked with a steady heaviness, like someone who belonged here or someone who believed they did. Ranger backed up until he was pressed against Ava's leg, his growl low but razor-edged. Ava whispered, "Stay behind me." The front doorknob twitched. Once, twice, then silence. Ava's heart hammered so loudly she worried the person outside could hear it. She grabbed Ranger's collar gently, steadying herself. The camera on her backpack strap was still recording, silently blinking. The doorknob turned again, slow, testing. Ava whispered, "Hello? Who's there?" Nothing. Just as she stepped back, the knob released. Light footsteps retreated across the porch, 2, 3, 4 steps, and then descended. They were leaving. Ava dared not move until the steps faded fully into the pine woods. Only when the forest swallowed the final crunch of needles did Ranger ease out of his rigid stance. He trotted to the doorway, sniffing the air intensely, then returned with a short, uncertain whine. "Yeah," Ava said quietly. I didn't like that either. She waited another minute, listening to the house breathe around her, creaking boards, distant shifting of branches outside, but no more footsteps came. "Okay," she murmured, exhaling shakily. "We stick to the plan. Find out what we can, then we're out." Ranger wagged his tail once, nervous approval. Ava slipped the mysterious LM key into her pocket. She stepped back into the kitchen thinking. The family photos, the abandoned cereal box, the dated calendar, everything suggested a family that left suddenly with plans unfinished. But the key, the scratched initials, those felt deliberate, like someone had tried to leave a message. Ava turned slowly toward the hallway again, toward the locked door. "Maybe the key fits," she whispered. Ranger stiffened as they approached the door again, but he didn't growl. Instead, he pressed close to Ava's side, as if he wanted to be between her and whatever might be inside. The doorknob's metal gleamed dully in the filtered light from the living room window. The carved letters ALM looked desperate and rushed, not decorative. Ava steadied her hand, slid the key into the lock, and turned. Click. The door unlocked. Ava looked at Ranger. "Ready?" He gave one soft bark. A yes. She opened the door. Cold air spilled out, sharp and stale, like a basement that hadn't been touched in years. Dust motes swirled in the thin beam of light that entered behind her. A narrow staircase descended into darkness. Ava pulled out her small flashlight. Its beam quivered as she aimed it down the steps. Old shelving, a cement floor, wooden crates, nothing immediately threatening, but the air. It felt heavier down there, like the memory of the house pooled in the basement. She descended slowly, Ranger behind her. At the bottom, the space opened wider than she expected. Tools, paint cans, boxes labeled camping, winter gear, and old toys lined the walls. Everything was dusty, undisturbed, except one thing. Against the far wall stood a small metal filing cabinet. Its top drawer was open, only a sliver, but inside, Ava saw papers sticking out irregularly, like someone had rifled through it quickly. She approached. Ranger paced near her heel. Ava pulled the drawer open. Inside were documents, receipts, letters, printed emails, photographs of trails and forest clearings. Some papers were stamped with a logo she didn't recognize. Backridge Forestry Cooperative. She flipped through the pile. Old planning permits, land surveys, maps, all marked with handwritten notes. Her flashlight beam landed on a familiar set of initials scribbled in the corner of multiple pages. LM. The mother? She kept digging. Between two survey sheets, Ava's fingers brushed a small, worn journal. A child's handwriting labeled the cover in a faded marker, Leo's notes. Ava's chest tightened. Leo, the boy from the photos. She opened the journal. "We're moving soon. Mom says Dad's contract is finished and we won't have to stay by the forest anymore." Another page. "I heard Mom and Dad arguing. Mom said the company lied. Dad said they didn't know about the trail. I don't understand what's wrong with the trail." Ava swallowed. A page later, "Someone came to the house again. Mom took me and Lily to the basement. She locked the door from the outside. She said to read quietly. Ranger keeps barking." Ava's breath hitched. The next page's ink was smeared, hurried. "Mom found the old key. She said if anything happens, we should unlock the door and run. She scratched her initials so we'd remember it's hers." Ava looked toward the staircase. The key, the door, the initials. Then she flipped to the final entry. Only one sentence, half written. "If someone finds this, please..." The pen stroke cut off abruptly, trailing into a jagged smear. Ava froze. She heard something upstairs. Not footsteps this time. A door closing, softly, deliberately. Ranger let out a low, urgent growl. Not the warning kind, but the "we need to go" kind. Ava shut the journal and shoved it into her backpack. "Okay," she whispered, steadying her breathing. "We're getting out. Now." She moved toward the stairs. Ranger pressed against her leg, guiding her forward. Halfway up, she heard it again. A creak above them. Someone was definitely in the house. Ava whispered, "Ranger, stay close." They reached the top of the stairs and saw the front door, which had been ajar just minutes ago, was now closed, firmly. The air in the living room felt different, heavy, still. Ava reached for Ranger's collar. "We're leaving," she whispered. They inched toward the door. Then a shadow moved across the porch window, human-shaped, pausing right outside the glass. Ava froze, breath catching in her throat. Ranger bared his teeth silently. The shadow turned, facing the door, facing them. And then the doorknob started to turn. The doorknob turned slowly, deliberately. Ava pressed herself against the wall, heart thundering. Ranger crouched low beside her. Whoever or whatever was on the other side hadn't made a sound except that measured turning. Then a voice, calm but firm, broke the silence. "Hey, is someone in there?" Ava blinked. The shadow outside shifted, now clearly a person. A tall man wearing a weathered jacket and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. Ranger growled softly, more in warning than aggression. Ava's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, we're here. Please. We're not—" "Don't worry," the man interrupted, raising his hand slightly. "I'm not here to hurt anyone." Ava's fingers tightened around the backpack strap holding Leo's journal. Her instincts screamed caution, but the calm tone of the stranger was almost soothing. Almost. "Who are you?" she asked. "Name's Ethan Parker," he said. "I come by this property sometimes. I used to know the family that lived here. My father worked with them years ago." Ava frowned, curious but still wary. You know them? Are you a friend?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "Not exactly. More like someone who wanted to help but couldn't. I come to check on the house, make sure nothing is being stolen or damaged." Ranger's ears twitched, but he relaxed slightly, sensing no immediate threat. Ava exhaled. "We didn't mean to trespass. We just found the trail and followed it." Ethan gave a small nod. "I figured. Most kids wouldn't wander this far, especially with a dog that big." He smiled faintly. "Name's nice, though. Ranger, huh?" "Yep," Ava said cautiously. "And you're not living here?" "No," Ethan said. "I just visit alone. Mostly for the memories, I guess. The family left suddenly. Nobody's ever explained exactly why." Ava tightened her grip on the backpack. "We found Leo's journal and a key, his mom's initials, LM, carved on a door." Ethan's eyes went wide. "You found the key?" He paused, then leaned closer to the window. "That key, it's been missing for years. Nobody's supposed to have it." Ava's heartbeat spiked. "Why?" Ethan shook his head. "It's complicated. That key, it opens a small hidden cabinet in the basement. Only one person, the mother, knew about it. She left instructions for her kids in case something went wrong." Ava swallowed hard. "Something went wrong?" Ethan ran a hand over his face, exhaling sharply. "Look, the family left suddenly. I think they were afraid of someone. Maybe someone connected to the company they worked for. Dad used to warn me that sometimes corporate disagreements could turn messy. Nobody ever came forward. Nobody ever explained why they vanished." Ava's mind raced. Leo's final journal entry, the smudged sentence, the key, it all fit together. A family abruptly gone, a hidden cabinet, a warning from the mother. She glanced at Ranger. The dog's nose twitched, ears high, as if sensing that danger was not immediate but lingering. "I need to see this cabinet," Ava said firmly. Ethan hesitated. "Are you sure? It's dusty, cramped, and, well, it's private, but if you insist..." Ava led the way back to the basement. Ranger padded silently beside her. Ethan followed, his steps cautious on the creaking stairs. At the bottom, Ava moved toward the metal filing cabinet again. Ethan pointed to a small latch hidden under a loose floorboard beside it. "This," he said, "is what the key opens." Ava's hand trembled slightly as she slid the key into the tiny lock. A soft click sounded. She lifted the lid. Inside, neatly stacked, were envelopes, each labeled with dates. The handwriting matched LM's initials. "Why didn't they take this with them?" Ava asked. Ethan shook his head. "Mom must have left it here intentionally. She wanted the children to have it if they ever came back, or if someone found it for them." Ava opened the first envelope. Inside were photographs. Leo and his little sister, Lily, playing in the woods, their parents laughing on the porch, some letters to friends. She flipped through several more. Each envelope contained letters, journals, small keepsakes. Then she found one envelope marked, "For Leo, only if you're lost." Ava's fingers paused. She looked at Ethan. "Do you think this was meant for him?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, Mom planned ahead. She knew something might go wrong, but she trusted her kids to figure it out, or someone like you to help." Ava felt a strange mixture of awe and responsibility. She had found the story of a family abruptly vanished, the mystery finally tangible, and now she held the final piece. "Do you want me to read it?" Ethan asked softly. Ava shook her head. "No, I think it's better if I keep it for now. It's like their story. We should make sure it gets back to someone who cares." Ethan smiled faintly. "You're a brave girl, Ava, and a smart one. Most adults would have turned around hours ago." Ava felt a small warmth in her chest. "Thanks." Then she glanced at Ranger. His ears twitched. He had been silent for minutes, and now he barked once, short, clear. Outside, movement in the trees again, footsteps, slow, deliberate. Ava's heart thumped. "Ethan." "Someone's coming." Ethan's face darkened slightly. "Let's not confront them. Let's be smart." Ava nodded. She carefully closed the cabinet, locked it again with the key, and slipped it back into her pocket. Ranger stayed close, alert but obedient. They climbed the stairs silently, moving toward the front door. The shadow had shifted closer. Whoever it was waiting. Ava held the door handle, her hand steady. Ethan whispered, "On 3, we step outside. Calm, slow, confident." "Okay," Ava said, whispering to Ranger. 1, 2, 3. They stepped out. A man froze on the porch, a stranger Ava had not seen before. He was thin, pale, and wore a hoodie that hid most of his face. But he didn't attack. He raised his hands in surrender. "Looking for someone?" Ava asked cautiously. The man shook his head. "No, just passing by. Sorry." Ava exhaled. Ranger stayed alert but relaxed. Ethan stepped forward. "You should leave. This place, it's not what you think." The man hesitated, then walked back toward the trees, fading into the morning light. Ava looked at Ethan. "Do you think we're safe now?" "For now," Ethan said. "But this house, it has a way of keeping secrets. Sometimes it waits for the right person to understand them." Ava smiled faintly. Ranger barked softly as if agreeing. She looked back at the house, feeling a mix of relief and awe. The mystery of the Morgan family had revealed itself in pieces, but at last she had found the truth hidden in plain sight. And somehow she knew this house, the key, Leo's journal, they were now part of her story too. The forest had grown quiet again. Ava stood on the porch, Ranger at her side, the key heavy in her pocket. Ethan Parker watched her carefully, as if gauging how much courage the girl had. Ava exhaled and finally said, "We can't just leave it like this. The house, the key, the journals, someone has to know what happened." Ethan nodded. "Yes, and I think you already know the answer." She tilted her head. "Me? You," Ethan said. "You found the house. You found the journals. You have found the key. Nobody else has shown this kind of patience and respect for what they left behind. You were meant to find it." Ava's mind went back to the basement, the cabinet, the envelopes. Each letter, each photograph, they weren't just memories. They were clues. Pieces of a story deliberately left behind. But a story of what? "Mom's key," Ava said, fingers tightening around the metal. "She left it for Leo, but he never got it. Why? What happened to them?" Ethan took a deep breath. "I've been coming here for years, trying to figure it out, talking to neighbors, following old trails. Nothing made sense, until now." He pointed to the window overlooking the overgrown backyard. "See that shed behind the house?" Ava followed his gaze. There, half collapsed under ivy, was a small wooden structure. Its door hung open. "What's inside?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "It's what Leo's parents were hiding, the thing that made them leave so suddenly, and it's why they left instructions for the children to use the key if necessary." Ava's pulse quickened. Ranger growled softly, sensing tension. Ethan walked toward the shed first, hands raised to avoid startling anyone or anything. Ava and Ranger followed cautiously. Inside, she saw it immediately. A stack of boxes neatly labeled with dates, papers, and what looked like small samples of equipment. Some were cameras, others electronic devices she didn't recognize, all neatly packed. "Wait," Ava said. "Why would they hide this?" Ethan looked at her gravely. "Because it wasn't illegal, but it was sensitive. The family discovered something about the company Mr. Morgan worked for, something the company didn't want public. When they realized the company might try to take the information, or worse, they decided to leave the house suddenly, hide the evidence, and protect themselves. Ava's fingers went to the key. And the journals? The journals and the letters were a breadcrumb trail, Ethan said, for Leo and Lily. If anything ever happened, they'd have instructions on what to do, how to find the evidence, and eventually how to tell the truth. Ranger sniffed the floor, then pawed at one of the boxes. Ava crouched down beside him, lifting the lid. Inside was a folder labeled Forest Survey Notes, Confidential. She flipped it open. Dozens of handwritten observations, maps, and photographs of trails, land plots, and unusual activity around the Pineback Trail. They were studying the forest? She asked. Partially, Ethan said. Mostly they discovered that the company was logging illegally, claiming areas that weren't theirs. The Masons, the family, kept meticulous records. They planned to report it, but they realized the company might retaliate. Ava swallowed hard. So, that's why they left. To protect the kids. Ethan nodded. Exactly. They couldn't take the evidence with them without putting themselves in danger. The key, the cabinet, the journals, it was all a safeguard. A puzzle for someone careful and brave enough to piece it together. Ava looked down at Ranger. His brown eyes met hers, steady, patient. We can do this, can't we? She whispered. Yes, Ethan said softly. We can, and we will. But first, we need to make sure nothing is disturbed. The evidence has to remain intact until the right people, authorities, historians, or investigators can review it. That's why your finding it was so important. Ava nodded. Her fingers tightened on the key again. I think we should document everything. Take pictures. Note where everything is. Then hand it over. Safely. Ethan smiled faintly. Exactly. That's why I came today. You just sped things along. They spent the next hour photographing each box, each folder, every scrap of paper. Ranger lay beside Ava, occasionally nudging her hand with his nose when she paused too long. The house felt alive again, not haunted, not abandoned, just waiting to tell its story. When they finished, Ethan led Ava outside. The forest was calm, golden sunlight filtering through the pines. He handed her a small notebook. This is for you, he said. Write down everything you saw, everything you understood. You're the one who uncovered the story. Make sure it's preserved. Ava took it carefully. I will. Ethan paused. You know, some mysteries aren't about ghosts or monsters. They're about people, about choices, courage, and timing. You got the timing right. Ava smiled faintly. Ranger barked once, almost in agreement. They both looked back at the house. The peeling paint, the sagging porch, the broken windows, it had held its secrets for years. Now, thanks to Ava, those secrets would finally see the light. Will the family come back? Ava asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. I doubt it, but their story, their truth, will, and maybe that's enough. Ava nodded, feeling a warmth she hadn't expected. She had set out for a hike, a simple adventure, and had uncovered a real-life mystery. One that didn't need ghosts to be frightening, just real stakes, real people. She slipped the LM key into her pocket one last time. It was more than a key. It was a symbol of trust, responsibility, and courage. Come on, Ranger, she said. Let's get home. As they walked back down the trail, the sunlight glinting through the pines, Ava felt a quiet triumph. She had discovered the house, protected its secrets, and pieced together a family's hidden story. The forest seemed to breathe with her steps, alive in a way it hadn't before. Not threatening, not eerie, just patient. And Ava knew it would wait for the next curious heart, the next careful soul willing to listen. By the time they reached the gravel road, Ava felt lighter. She glanced at Ranger, who gave a soft, approving bark. I think we did the right thing, she said. Ranger nudged her hand with his nose. Yes, she whispered, smiling. The right thing. And as they disappeared down the road, leaving the house hidden among the pines, the mystery that had lingered for years finally found its resolution. Not in fear, not in ghosts, but in courage, patience, and the careful footsteps of a girl and her dog. The house waited, silent again, but now with its story ready to be told. And Ava, 11 years old, with Ranger at her side, had become its keeper.